This episode is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. They are an amazing online supplier and have been around since the beginning of the game as Michigan's premier paintball field and paintball supplier since 1987. They are rapidly expanding into the online retail space and supplying everything you need to be the best paintball player you can be. They have got it all. Head over to lonewolfpaintball.com and shop all of your favorite brands. And they also boast amazing customer service and will have this out to you with same day shipping, which is amazing. It's always nice to know that your stuff is on its way immediately so you can start to use it that very next weekend of play. Check out their YouTube, Lone Wolf Paintball, and their Instagram at Lone Wolf PB, and stay up to date with all of their deals and sales. Play the Game podcast is immensely honored to have them on board, and we cannot wait for you guys to check out lonewolfpaintball.com and become a part of their community. Today's episode of PTG is brought to you by the one and only Trans Labs that brought the world two amazing products. First off, Transfuse, which is a hydration multiplier, and most recently, they just dropped Transcend, which is a nootropic energy formula. No matter what you use, when you choose Trans Labs, you are going to be boosted and you are going to be ready to charge the paintball field and win out there. With Transfuse, that is a premium rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula scientifically designed to replenish you at the cellular level. And they use all natural ingredients in this product. We've got zinc, we've got vitamin B6, we've got vitamin C, sodium, potassium, choline, and it is an amazing way to make sure that you're hydrated and prepared to play top level paintball. When it comes to Transcend, that is a premium nootropic energy formula designed to increase cognitive performance, elevate mood and clarity while supporting long-term brain health, and it's going to leave you feeling great with no crash or jitters. It's one of the only products in the nootropic space backed by research studies to ensure the formula is correct for optimal performance. It is more potent than anything on the market, and it will keep you charged and ready to win out there. I take one scoop, but if you're stimulant sensitive, take a half scoop. And if you want that LFG dose to launch to the moon, dump 2 scoops in your drink and you are going to be flying down that paintball field. Comes in 2 delicious flavors, Baja Blast and Skittles Candy for the Transcend. And for the Transfuse, they have 2 new flavors as well, Pineapple Express and Hawaiian Punched. So if you get a chance, head over to translabs.com. That's TRANZLABS.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME and you'll get 10% off. If you subscribe to a monthly delivery service, you also get 10% off as well. So you can take advantage of 20% off on these products. Head over to translabs.com and give it a go.
What's going on, PTG Nation? Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. This episode, we have an early morning banger. We got one of the best players to ever come out of Europe. We have Clint Moore. He plays on the Lucky 15s. They are one of the new young teams that have made an absolute splash on the scene, but he is the old salty vet. Played on some legendary franchises like London Nexus, Shockwave, Art Chaos. Dude is just an absolute monster and has done so much for European paintball over the years. One of my good friends, somebody that I got the chance to play with back in 2013 over in Europe on Nexus, and he was just one of those absolute steady rocks. I call him the European Mr. Clutch. Without further ado, we're going to hop in the show.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon.
Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game.
He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this episode I'm very excited for. We got an early morning show for the European crew out here. We have Clint Moore, absolute dynamite of a player. I'm not sure if you're the captain of the GB team. In my mind, you're the captain of the GB team. You're one of the OGs out there. You guys just won the Nations Cup. Clint, how you doing, man?
Hey, good morning. Yep, doing good. Thank you very much. How are we doing, Tyler?
Doing good, bro. Thank you so much for being here and for everything that you do with the Lucky 15s and paintball in the European landscape. It's really been fun to watch the entire European landscape develop over the years, and you guys are coming for it. So how's it been working with the Lucky 15s and what's going on in your area? Where are you reporting from?
Well, I'm based in London,
Nice.
and Lucky 15s are based up north, Birmingham way. Yeah, no, 15s are going good. They're going good. They've got a good program. Ainsley's been working the team for like 6-7 years to get to the pro level, which is fantastic. He got me on board 2 years ago. So I was kind of coaching their second team last year and ended up tearing my hamstring. So it threw me out for the whole season. So it kept me out of the first team. And then this year, obviously 15s was playing pro in the NXL Europe. And I wanted a spot. I wanted to come back and play pro and see if I can still compete at the top. And then Ainsley said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we want to do it. We want you to be a part of it. So, yeah, it's been a real tough year, but a great year as well.
Yeah. We were kind of talking before the show. You were like, man, it's hard work. And then we were talking about how that's always, it's what it takes for that success. And that's what you guys are seeing, and it always feels good to put in that hard work and then get the rewards out of it. And, it might suck in the moments where you got to be clocked in or doing these crazy drives or waking up way before you really should ever have to, and be pushing it on a mission to go and play paintball. But when you see the rewards that you get out of it, that's what makes it all worth the struggle. And, you guys have such an amazing camp. Major shout out to Ainsley and everybody on the squad who's working their butts off to make sure that you guys can be at the top of those podiums, when it comes to tournament time.
Yeah. The kids hate me. The team players hate me. I'm the one who screams and shouts at them if they're not ready on time. And we're going to be doing snap shooting drills for 2 hours, and they go, "Oh, this is boring. This is rubbish. Why are we doing this?" And then, when we come to the event, it's like, this is why we do this, and it all starts adding up. And at training, it's not always fun, but when we get to the event, that's where we have our fun, especially this year.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly what that team needed, though, and needs, right? Because it's a team full of young, hungry kids that have a ton of raw talent. Lucky 15s are definitely known for their aggression. They made a huge splash on the scene. Really impressed Matty Marshall when he went over there, and anyone who watched that London event, you guys just have an all-out attack, across the board. And then your style of play, I feel, fits perfect with it because you are that closer. I think you called it the cleaner, right? The cleanup crew, where, you can slow the game down. You can control the game with your communication, with good, late game decisions, right? And that's always what I've known you as. And for the listeners, I got to play with Clint back in 2014 on Nexus. That was one of your teams for a long time. And I just watched you pull out so many, big situations in big moments, the European Mr. Clutch, as they say in my mind, you're just, you're that player over there. So it's a great fit with the Lucky 15s. And I think you're finally seeing it come together because I could tell those kids, they just want to attack, and they know that it looks cool. They want the big highlight reel moves. They make a lot of the big highlight reel moves often, but you have to have that balance on a team. Otherwise you won't win, right? If you only have one speed, it can become really easy for the other top teams to shut that down. So I think you've been a perfect addition with this group of kids.
Yeah, I feel like I am because the team's very inexperienced. Like I think Ethan on the team, he's 23. He's the closest to the age gap of myself, and I'm 40. I've been playing for like 20 odd years, 22, 23 years. But some of these kids have only been playing for 2 or 3 years. So everything with them is like aggression, attack. And as you said, sometimes you just need to just sit back and just watch it unfold a little bit, and then just plug any gaps here or there. And just be that voice of reason to say, look, just slow down. We don't need to win it straight away. We can take 3 or 4 minutes to go and win a point.
Totally.
But yeah,
that's very important what you're talking about. And there's different levels to the game, right? You have your breakout, you have your mid game, and then you have the end game, which arguably could be the most important. I know the off the break is very important as well. You got to get those shots dialed in. We got to try and give ourselves an advantage early. The mid game, we got to survive those, temptations to gunfight everybody and feel like we have to do everything and just play smart. And then the end game, you got to be a closer, man. You got to know how to close that door on someone's fingers and just get them out the game, So it's something that takes a lot of time and many, many, many years of experience to know how to close that door on your opponent, know exactly when to punch, when to, like you said, slow the horses down a little bit and let them, stay hungry to run, but, keep the leash on them a little bit at the end there. And, I would like to talk to you about that, the importance of, closing, and any advice that you would have on closing paintball games.
I think you've just got to be aware of the situation and the field and how it's playing out. If you've controlled a Cerebral side or whatnot, it's like, well, maybe I can just leave my guys to do the bit on that side. I can go and help the snake side or the center push. It's having, in my eyes, it's reading the whole field at once, and kind of bringing all that information in, and then calculating where you feel is the right place for you to go or where for you to shoot is. But yeah, it's quite hard. You need to have your eyes over the whole field at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's, Tyler's verbatim said this on the show. I know we both speak about it when we're teaching paintball or when we're at clinics. You can't just be worried about the 5 players on the other team. You have to know what your players are doing too. You have to be concerned with 10 players, right? And what all 10 players are doing. If there's 10 players alive on the field, 5 on your team, 5 on their team, in order to make the best decisions, you need to know what every single person is doing. What your players on the snake side are doing and trying to accomplish. What kind of advantage do they have over there? What kind of disadvantage do they have over there? In comparison to where the other guys are. Where is the hole? Where can you go and capitalize? And like you said, if you feel you're good on the Dorito side and maybe you have an advantage on the snake side, and that extra body, you being that third body to swing over, is going to help, win down that side. You got to make those decisions, and you can't do that without having all of the information. So being hyper aware, that's the crucial thing.
And
yes.
What I kind of feel that is one of my strongest points is if I see my guys where they're shooting, it's like, well, I know exactly what he's shooting at without actually being behind him. So, analysing all of the players are going, well, that guy's shooting across field, he's shooting at the corner, this guy's shooting at the other corner, this means there's a gap in the middle. It's just adding all those bits up together.
That's very important.
Reading your players' body
Absolutely.
language.
Yeah. And the lanes, seeing which lanes are being held, that's crucial for your movements and any types of developments that you're trying to add to the game. Or if you see that a gun is out of alignment with, and you read the seam and you're like, oh my gosh, we have a major hole in the game right here. I need to turn your gun. And Marcelo is one of the best in the world at that. He's made a living off of what we're talking about right here, and been able to, I call it DJing. It's like DJing, you're like a DJ out there. You got to be spinning the records the right way and have the music playing the right way. It is very much like DJing. That's kind of actually, like, after all these years, my assessment of it is like, you got to be playing the music the right way, So if we have something off, we got to make sure that it's turned the right way so that it's sounding good, playing good, and it's going to work for us.
I like that analogy.
DJ Marcelo.
DJ Marcelo. Shout out.
DJ March, DJ CeeLo. We have to come up with a cool nickname. I'm sure the PTG fan will whip up a nice little clip for us.
Oh, yeah, they got you.
Yeah, Clint, was that always your style of player when you were younger? Did you have a different style of play, and it kind of evolved as you got older, as it does for many other players?
I think when we're all young, we all start off at the front, don't we? I think I started off painting the snake, and then it was on the Dorito side, and it wasn't until I think it was like Nexus 2013 when you was on board, Marcelo. Then I started stepping back a little bit further down the field, as in towards the mid to back center, because we had younger players coming in, which took up that spot of the Dorito or the snake guy. So it's almost like it's a little bit natural that you start at the front, and then you're forced back, aren't you, with age?
Yeah.
And then I'd say maybe like the last 10 years, I've been on that back line consistently, and just plugging the gaps, I guess.
Yep.
Nice. Was that 2013? It wasn't 14? I forgot what year I played with Hulk.
2013 was he was on Nexus, because 2014 I was on Arc Chaos.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Dude,
what was it like
about
playing
the
for
Chaos
them?
Thing? Yeah.
It was an experience, man.
For sure. That was a crazy team. Kyle was on the team. Like, we were all running around SoCal paintball scene, and it was cool to see Kyle when he was playing for Dynasty, also with Art Chaos, and that was actually the year that that Dynasty ran it in 13. I believe it was. And then 14, he was like on a run with both teams. So it was a cool thing to watch. The European Art Chaos. Yeah.
I think Kyle played with Art Chaos in 2013 in Europe, and then Art Chaos came to the US in 2014, and Kyle didn't play with them, right? And that was when
it was me and Axel who played on Art Chaos from the European teams.
There we go. Yeah, man, you've been on some legendary organizations, because that one and Nexus are two of the biggest names, to come through paintball. When it comes to European paintball, I think Nexus is up there with anybody. It's one of the biggest names ever, not just in European paintball, but the landscape as a whole. I know the American players, when they would go to Europe, and you guys have come over here to the States quite a bit. They're always like, all right, be ready. We got to play Nexus players. So I would like to kind of dive into your story and your history and where you started. How did you find this crazy game of paintball, and what does that look like?
So it started off in about 1996. My dad used to play pro woodland paintball. So
no way.
Man. So I used to just turn up and watch, because paintball was really expensive back then. And I used to just hang around paintball sites for about 6 or 7 years, just following my dad around. And then I kind of got my chance in 2001 with a team playing Woodball. So I'd done that for a couple of years. And then
how much was a case of paint at that time?
Dude, it was about £120. So
do the math, people.
$180 at the time, possibly. Yeah. We used to share half a bag of paint. Anyone want to buy half a bag? Or so that was crazy. So I didn't really play much back then, because obviously money was tight. And it wasn't until about 2002, 2003, I was 18, 19. I was working, so I could afford to play more paintball. I played on a team called Iron Wolf, which was like a pro woodland team.
That's a badass name.
Then I got picked up by Shockwave. So you had like Manchester Shockwave.
Yeah.
So
Shockwave.
they were a powerhouse team in Europe. In the 7-man format.
How did you make that connection? Did you know a player from the same area or something like that?
To be honest, I got picked up because Shockwave wanted to pick up basically my best friend at the time, and they thought my best friend wouldn't go unless I went with him. So that's a true story.
Dude, that's amazing.
That's funny. That's kind of like Nick Laval's story.
Yeah.
Impact thought they were picking up Dan Zaleski. Have you heard that, Clint? They thought they were picking up Dan Zaleski, not Nick Laval. And so Nick Laval showed up, and they're like, wait, you're not the one that we were trying to pick up. And it was kind of a funny story. Yeah, you're here though, and then it obviously worked out for them. But Nick Laval tells the story. It's really funny.
Nick's a damn baller, dude.
Absolutely.
Get you. I kind of guess 2004 was my first good year, because that was the X-Ball, when it was an hour format per game. And that's the first time I actually met you, Tyler, because Shockwave come over and trained with Bob Long's Assassins and Avalanche in California.
Dude, that was crazy. That was actually the weekend that I was trying out.
You must have been about 12 or 14.
Dude, I was 13 years old at that moment, and I was trying out for Bob Long's Assassins from Twisted. I was playing for Twisted Factory in NorCal. And then, dude, still to this day, I pinch myself, how did that happen? How did I land that tryout? And it started from just relentless attack of paintball. I never stopped. Once I picked up the marker, it was on, I was just in there. And then to have that practice with you and Avalanche was I was blown away, and I was getting eliminations out there. So they were losing their mind.
Everyone was losing their mind, because this 13, 14-year-old kid's just going around smashing everyone. That was 2004 was a good year, because I loved the X-Ball format.
Hell yeah.
And, the Russians really set the level back then, the first real pro team, and they were just destroying everyone. And then, was it end of 2004? I actually got asked by the Russian Legion to go to America and play
Nice.
in Orlando. And it was it was X-Ball format, hour games. And I think it was just like 4 or 5 games. There was no tournament win. It was just like series
That's
points.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
that was a wild time because I was playing for the Assassins in the NXL with you,
yeah.
and it was like glorified practice pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy. I didn't actually get to play, but they just flew me out there and just used me as like a training tool.
Yeah.
I guess. But it was a great experience. And then
Oh, man, for sure.
2005 was Nexus the first time round. That didn't quite work out that year. 2006 and 7 was back with Shockwave. You know, we played MPPLs in America, which I love that format. And then 2008 was the going back to Nexus, and that's where, you know, my paintball career really took off that year. You know, we won two major pro events. We beat the Philly Americans in both finals.
Amazing.
And that's when they had Tim and Fedorov was playing on that team, and we had Brandon Short. We had Brandon Short actually. He was
dog.
Yeah. He played with us that year, which was great because at that time, 2008 Ironman, Brandon Short was the team. For
Short.
me back then.
I mean, without a doubt, one of the best Snake players to ever play paintball. If you do not know Brandon Short's name, you need to know Brandon Short. Go do some research, go watch some videos, watch that kid play. And even like Dynasty, man, like at the end of his career, just stunting, came back and played with Dynasty again, and they won World Cup. You know, the guy
he played great too. He played literally
he did play
every other point. He played a lot of
the
points.
guy
You know?
is an absolute animal, dude. He's so good at paintball and just like reading the seams, and also style. One of the most stylish paintball players ever to pick up a paintball marker. So I want to kind of pick your brain about like, what was it like playing the original X-Ball format, the 50-minute huge games? Walk us through that, because I remember what it was like, and it was insane.
Dude, I absolutely loved it because I think it was a uncapped semi, wasn't it, at the time? So
it was uncapped.
So guns were like hitting 20 balls, 22 balls per second. You know, there was a lot of moody guns back out there. But I love the format of playing for 50 minutes. It's like, because you went through some battles in that 50 minutes. You know, some teams absolutely destroyed. You know, I can remember watching the Russians, you know, they were winning like 21-26-0. But I think it was definitely a test of character back then. You know, you had nowhere to hide. You know, you had an hour of getting absolutely pummeled if you weren't playing well.
He is not lying. It was brutal. There were some teams that were like, "We got to go back out there." They're like, "We don't want to go," you know, like.
And the overshooting, and you know, you never got shot once or twice. You got absolutely ripped 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. But
dude,
I thought the format for the time was brilliant. Obviously, I know it's not, you know, you can't keep up that format because of the cost of paint, and
that's right. Yeah,
but you know, it was definitely. And you had coaching at the time who could coach onto the field. So you had like a little coaching box, and he could actually talk to you whilst you were playing. So it was good for the time. I don't think it was going to be great for paintball, but definitely back then
it was fun.
It was fantastic to play.
How do you feel about that sideline coaching? Do you prefer to have it or not have it?
I hate it. I think it's bad.
I agree.
I think it's bad for young players.
Yes.
One thing, you know, we talk a lot when we meet each other in Europe and whatnot. It's like the skill set, you know, there's not a huge amount of young players coming through. And I think it's because they've missed that 7-man format of you had to go out there and play a blind field, not have any coaching, and go and play paintball and work it out for yourself. You know, I know both of you have played 7-man in the past, but a lot of the kids who were coming into the game in 2004, 6, and 7, they had a coach there screaming at them whilst they're playing. So they've just become a bit of a robot, don't they? And just do as they're told rather than actually playing the game. So
it's one of those things that I agree with you. I think that coaching for the pro level, because I was the robot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I am the I am the robot that was made as a kid with my coach, hollering at me. And I don't think it needs to be in the higher levels, but I do almost think that, like, for the very lowest level, maybe
Yeah,
having that could give them a little guidance and teach them how to maneuver. But you can also learn that off the field. So it is kind of it's a
catch
delicate
22.
balance. Yeah, so I definitely appreciate the game without coaching, because I think it takes a huge aspect of paintball away that is so important. It's that sneakiness, the
Yeah,
element of surprise. And if you like, it was the worst when you'd make a good move, when there was sideline coaching and they're like, he just moved into the middle. And you're
and
like,
you're like,
oh, great.
oh, what's the point?
Exactly. So I think that for the time, once again, we go back to like the time of it. I think that it was cool to have that, but I definitely appreciate that there isn't coaching in paintball, because I think that there's just such an important element that gets missed if you have that.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also agree. I don't like and don't wish that there was still coaching, but I would like if they, maybe moved the stands up a little bit more and further back and allowed the fans to kind of talk and scream, but you can't have a dedicated coach. I don't know. It's just kind of weird when you see it happen now. I mean, there's like family members and stuff in the stands that are kind of coaching. They kind of are cheering and call stuff out, and like, I don't know that, sometimes it messes the game up, but how do you stop that? Right. It's a sporting event. So it's really
Yeah.
hard to try to tell, a crowd, like, you guys can't say or do anything. I don't know if that's the greatest. So maybe
It's
there's like
like
some happy
tennis.
medium. Yeah. Maybe there's some happy medium where, like, if you can, move the stands back a little bit more, and have it away from the field, but so they have a good kind of downward view. And you allow them to yell. And if you ever catch a team with like a designated coach in the stands cheating, or then it's like in football when the Patriots and Belichick get caught with something. You give them some sort of suspension, they lose a draft pick. I don't know. You can find ways to punish it, but some
Yeah.
happy medium I think would be good. And then a thought on it, like how it affects the younger players. I agree with Tyler. I almost think it could help, and I have put a lot of thought into this, because it's funny. Mike Hinman, was Mouse's sideline coach for so long, and Mike Hinman is in my opinion one of the absolute best. He is the best in the game as far as that sideline coaching. Like, if you were ever to watch him in person control a player and get them,
Yeah.
to find the seams and find the holes and make big moves, Mike was it, and he was always doing it with Mouse. And now that's what Mouse is known for without the coaching. So it was like downloading into his brain as it's happening in real time, right? So
Yeah.
while I totally understand, I think in some sense it can hinder you because you're not making these decisions on your own. I think if you're a thoughtful enough player, you are absorbing this information. Like, okay, last time I was in this situation where there was, two players on my side and only one on the other side, I made this move to capitalize that way. So I'll try it somewhat like that again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I don't like
Sorry.
it. I don't like it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like the sideline coaching. I'm just kind of making the argument there. But
No,
yeah,
for
I
sure.
hate when a move's like taken away. That's the worst, is when a move's taken away. A good move is taken away because of sideline coaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think, like I say, if you put it in the divisions, lower divisions, two,
Yeah,
3, 4, 5, or whatnot, I think it's perfect. But as the skill set
Yeah.
gets higher, what you
yeah,
don't want is somebody like, say, Tyler's playing. He's got into the snake, he's causing a load of damage, but I've just got a weaker player, and I've coached him to counteract Tyler's
yes,
ability to read the game.
yeah,
Um,
totally,
so, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
totally.
it's definitely something that I think is something that will be talked about for a long time, because we did see it in the past and now moving into the future. But that's why you hire Mike Hinman. If you ever need help out there, call up Mike Hinman. He can download people, and that's really what it comes down to, is downloading that process, right, Marcelo? And that's why I like
Yeah,
doing training
absolutely.
events, getting the knowledge from someone such as Clint. In Europe, if you're out in Europe, pick his brain. See how he walks through the game, because we talked about this on our most recent episode, but the cerebral aspect of paintball is the most important. You have to have already done the mental reps. If you haven't done the mental reps, or at least thought about it or been through those situations, when you meet those situations, you're not going to know which way to navigate. So you've got to do those mental reps. And I know that you have, Clint, done those. And I don't know if you want to kind of add to that, but I think it's really important to have that cerebral aspect sharpened going into tournaments and going into practices.
Yeah, you've got to have an open mind. You got to kind of go into a practice and not be scared of getting shot. I say to the guys on the team, look, I want you to run to this bunker 50 times, running and gunning. Well, I'm going to get shot.
That's
Lots.
all right.
Why? Hey, we're going to take this into the tournament. If we can get you doing it and it's 75, 80% success, then, now we know this when it matters. So use training for what it is. It's training. It's not about winning. Not in my eyes, anyway.
It's totally.
Yeah, that's such a crucial thing. So many teams, they show up to practice and their only goal is winning. And, often that's just because of their ego or, their inexperience in like, I think the more experience you have in paintball, you realize that some of those weekends that are the most brutal at practice where you're getting beat up and you're not having a lot of success, if you are thoughtful with them and you learn from them, you usually have your best event right after those weekends. The weekends that you go through and you're untested, and everything is working. That's when maybe you go 4-0 in the prelims, but first game Sunday morning, you get knocked out because you see something you haven't seen.
You're going home.
Yeah.
I always say to the guys on the team, if we have a great practice before an event, I'm always worried. Because it's
Yes.
like, what are we getting away with, which we won't get away with, like you say, on a Sunday morning.
At some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourselves for that? Right. Obviously, like one of the main things you could do is try to just play better competition, have good variation in the teams that you practice. But what if you don't have a lot of opportunity to see, different looks and other high level teams? Like, how can you monitor that yourself?
It's tough, but I think we try and add penalties within ourselves whilst we're playing a point. So we might say, right, Lou and Spencer, you can only shoot a loader this point, but the other guys can shoot, 2 or 3 pods. So we we try and give ourselves forfeits whilst playing the point.
Yeah.
We can't make a secondary move until we've hit G2 off the break, or that's the only way I feel that we can do it when you're limited with who you can train with. And in Europe, we're quite limited with the quality of elite teams for us to train with. So we have to kind of make it harder for ourselves within each point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Who's
dude, that is
Sorry, go ahead, March.
Yeah, that is such valuable information right there, though, Clint, because there's a lot of teams, especially divisional teams here in the U.S. that they struggle with exactly that. They come to me and they say, I know you guys always say play better competition, but we can't get those practices for whatever reason. Maybe the higher level teams just don't want to play them, or they're not in their area, or it's quite the drive. And, that's great advice, is that there are still ways that you can make the game harder on yourself and mimic a situation you might see in the event. Like I've even gone back to, Clint, I'm sure you did this when you were younger. I know we all did, but to where you have a player or two on the field, not even have a gun. So the whole time they have to communicate, they have to impact the match with their voice. Right. And it won't just be the back player. Sometimes I'm like, snake player, you don't have a gun. And he's like, well, do I still have to go to the snake? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You got to get in the snake and now impact the game with your voice from that position. And these are great ways to make the game harder on yourselves and put yourselves in different, types of situations and win.
Yeah, 100%. We do a lot of 5-on-4s, 5-on-3s again, but the 3 or the 4, they're playing with limited paint. So they're playing on the back foot to start with, because the game could be dictated straight away off the break. If you've got good gun shooters, you can shoot 2 off the break, and then you're not really training because it's a 5-on-3 or a 5-on-4. And so kind of put yourself on the back foot to start with straight away and limit yourself to what you can do. And before you know it, your skill set will raise really quickly. One thing that 15s have done as the years progressed is we've learned how to slow down. Marcelo was in Paris in the last event. 15s actually played some of their slowest paintball they have all year. And that's something we're really working hard on, because we know we can't run through everyone every single weekend, because it just doesn't work. So penalize yourself in training, be really strict on yourself and use that to your advantage when you come to the event.
Yeah, you got to be able to shift through all those different gears, like we were talking about, all the different gears of the game. And also, I think that field walking is kind of a lost art that really well from playing 7-man, where it was imperative that you were great at field walking because you had multiple different layouts to look at. So you had to try to read the cadence of a field in a day on 7 different layouts and then go out with your team the following day and hope that you know how those fields play. So now being in the X-Ball world, having a layout that we really can dig into, field walking, I feel like is extremely important in reading the flow of the field. So kind of talk to me about that and how you guys approach looking at a field and reading the way it's going to play.
I guess it's a lot as with most NXL type teams. It's repetition, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you turn up to your training and you may look at it, but you may just go, look, we're just going to play 50 points and see how the field plays for today, and then use the first day's training towards your second day. You know, second week, third week, fourth week, and you progress as the weeks go on. I feel that I can see a new layout, and within 3 or 4 minutes of looking at the layout, go, look, this is how it's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can make this. You're going to shoot this guy off the break. You're going to do this, this, and this. And I'm not sure it's exactly the same with both of you. The younger players on the team are a little bit more. Will walk the field a lot longer, and analyze things a lot more. But with this format, you could just go and play the field for 4 weeks, 3 weeks before it actually matters. So again,
you guys get a lot of practice time. The NXL Europe releases the layout about a month in advance from the tournament, which is very different than here in the States.
Yeah, so we have normally about 4 weekends of the field being released. And then we tend to meet up with, say, Breakout, and we have a scrim with them for a weekend, and then we kind of come home. Then we do our drills because we know how the field's playing, and then the week before we will tend to bash heads with a team. But also we've got the CPPS over here, which runs a tournament format, so we get to play a tournament before a tournament as well, which is
nice.
Huge. So yeah,
it's massive.
So hopefully then when we go to the actual event, it's just fine tuning. It's what's going to happen on the day. Is the paint good? Is the paint bad? Is that bunker slightly offset? But you've trained it so much that you should know all the variables, and it's just then it comes down to your skill set.
Yeah,
and working as a team,
playing in the moment. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when you guys are getting ready for these events with Lucky 15s, are you the primary kind of game plan maker, or is it by committee? Does everybody give input, or have you stepped into that role and
I tend to work out all
the plans?
Yeah, I tend to work out the game plan to start with. So I'll kind of, after a training, I'll go, okay, this is what we're going to start doing. But then all the players add their input as well. And then that game plan evolves. But then I'm there to kind of just rein it in a little bit or push it out a little bit further if I feel where it needs to be pushed and pulled. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's a decision that all the players make on what plan actually works and what doesn't work. But then it's kind of me who implements this is when we're doing it. This is when we're not doing it.
Okay.
And
yeah.
But when you come to a tournament, for yourselves, paintball evolves. Friday paintball is completely different to Sunday paintball, and Sunday can throw game plans out the window, and you've just got to evolve and change things up to suit personnel, how the field's playing, and how the paint is, because that's key as well.
That everything that you just said right there could take a player 10 years to learn. But
it's taking this guy 45 years,
It's just 40, man. Just 40.
Yeah, take it easy. Dang, that's crazy, because you're right. It's a completely different game on Friday. Sunday paintball, and then you said playing the paint as well. All these different variables are so important to the overall outcome. And it must be extremely difficult to, obviously be playing the highest level paintball possible and having to coach and play. Can you kind of give us some advice on how you do that, or, for anybody that has to do that, how you can do that the most efficiently, because it's extremely difficult, but you seem to be doing it very well.
I think there's a trust. There's a trust factor there. The players need to trust the person who's giving the order and respect that person, but then the person who's giving the order needs to respect his players. That if the player says I can't do this or I can do this, is you take that on board as well, and you listen to your players, which help evolve your play, the game plan and stuff. Dude, it's extremely hard to try and play and coach at the same time. And the first two events we had, Jim, it was an ex-15s player. He come on and helped, which was hugely beneficial. On Sunday in Paris, we struggled. Tauntauns, we played Tauntauns in the semi-final, and they had our card marked. And I couldn't figure it out at the time on how or what we needed to do, because I was so engrossed in my game on how I was trying to stop Axel Gibson the Snake, and then that's when we were lacking that outside coach, because every top team in my eyes needs that coach outside the netting to progress you to that elite number one spot, and Marcelo, we speak quite a lot after events and whatnot, and he was like, dude, I just wanted to coach you and just wanted to help you. And I was like, oh man, I so wish you did just tell me one thing, like, Clint, this guy needs to switch and shoot this guy, and stuff. So you're I don't think you'll ever get it right as a player coach, because really you need that outside voice to say at the pro level, that is, you need that outside coach to say, look, this guy's doing this, you need to do this. Especially when you're losing points. I'm not saying it's our players, but a lot of players will be quite easy to point fingers, and it's not necessarily what they're saying is right, but it suits what they want to do in that point. But it might not be good for the team to progress. So yeah, it's difficult, but you got to have that massive trust. With your players, and they've got to trust you that if you say, look, we're going to go to the 50 snake off the break, they go, yeah, okay, we can do it, and they feel confident in their ability to do it. So
because of the reps too.
That's such a big one. There is the confidence in the players, like with the play. You hear a lot of the top teams will say this kind of stuff too. You could have a play that might not be as good as another play, but if the team buys into the not so good play and doesn't buy into the really good play, the not so good play is going to do better. If the team is bought into it, it's such a strange thing how that happens, but you could have the best play in the world, and if the team's not bought into it, or they're not confident in their abilities to execute the different parts there, that means that the play's not geared for those players' skill set. And I think that's a very important thing that comes into play when you're actually making game plans. It's like, these are the 5 players I have on the field. This is what they're good at. I need to put each of them in the position within this play to succeed so that they can be their best within this play. And the play also has to be kind of geared to the strength of the team. There's no blanket play where you're like, no, this play is really good. You guys need to figure out how to do this play. The play has to match the players.
Exactly. And there's been a couple of times throughout the season that we've been tied at, say, like 4-4, it's gone into overtime. And I'll say to the players, look, I've got this play, but we need to make the decision as a team. Are we going to do it? Because it could be a little bit ballsy. And like you said, Marcelo, if the player doesn't want to do it, it's going to fail straight away. Yeah. So you need all 5 players to go, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, I understand what I've got to do, and we're going to execute it. And luckily enough, twice we've been put in that situation. It's been a ballsy break and a ballsy move off the start gate, but it's worked because everyone's on board with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
you can see it in the eyes. When you look into their eyes, you're like, okay, yeah, you like that play. You can tell. They're like, I'm primed. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's get this. And you want to make sure that the play calls and the tone that you're setting, everyone is on a high frequency with how they feel about moving into those plays. Otherwise, like March said, you could have the best play in the world. If they're not feeling it, it could be the best play. It's not going to work. They have to feel it. You got to want it.
It's the repetitions in training, isn't it? You almost know every single way to break to the 50 Dorito, the snake possible. And it's about just putting it together at the right time.
Yeah.
And letting them go and express themselves and go win the point.
Yeah. And like you said, the reps, you got to do the numbers. It's just a numbers game at the end of the day. It's, how many times are you doing this and databasing it, not just doing it, but having a way of writing it down so you can look at it and have a point of awareness to move from off of all the work that you're putting in. What good is it to put in all of this work if you're not going to have a great way of remembering what we've done. So making sure if you run to a certain spot, if we run to all the bunkers on the field 10, 15, 20 times or whatever, let's document that. Let's look at the numbers and see what the percentages were of making it to spots, and then applying that is going to just take your team to the next level.
Just kind of working out just now, like if on a training weekend we do 60 points over a weekend, that 4 training weekends before an event, that's 240 points. Yeah. So that's 240 variables on what could and what does and what doesn't work. And if you haven't sussed it by then that's when your coach needs to kick up the arse, because he's holding you back though, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that means you haven't been training the right way. That's for sure. If after that many points, you see something that you've never seen before or didn't even think about, at least didn't think about, then there's a problem for sure. Because there's so many ways that you can look at a field and just again, thinking about the field throughout the week to me is like one of the most valuable things. Playing things in your mind, like, okay, if they make it out to this spot, I need to reposition to this spot to keep them from making that secondary move. I know that I need to reposition to keep them from making that secondary move, because I know once you get to the corner, it's a free move up to the Dorito 2, and that's how teams are playing it, right? And if it's their attacker that gets out there, I definitely want to do that. Maybe if it's their 2 or their 3 that gets out there, and I know they don't like to attack, then maybe I do something else because I know that I have time, to not put attention on that. All of these variables, I just broke down one little part, but you have to think about every part of the game like that. And if you do that throughout the week, then on the weekend, you're super prepared mentally. And if you do that over, here in the US, we only have the 2 weekends with the field. We try to fit an extra day in each weekend. So we play about, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then maybe you could get to the field and do drills on a Wednesday leading up to an NXL event. But this is a lot of time on the field, a lot of time for you to sit there and go through these ideas and mentally prepare yourself, get those mental reps. Whereas, a lot of players, and these are the teams that don't have as much success, they go to the field, they practice. Sunday night, they come home, they put their gear bag away, and they don't open it up or think about it until the following weekend, right? And so really a lot of the work that you did gets forgotten too. And so when it's crunch time and there's a layout released and you're getting ready for that event, you have to be all in mentally, and so it's not just the weekends of practice. It's also the midweek stuff that really prepares you.
You got to be obsessed.
Well, I think, something that you've done on a few of your podcasts in the past is what you want to get from paintball. Do you want to win, or do you want to go and have fun? Me personally, it's all about winning. And when I win, that's when I have fun. But if you just want to turn up and just play. Yeah.
That's Clint Moore for you, baby.
Let's go, Clint.
If you just want to turn up and have a laugh with your friends, then you can't ever be upset with the result you get at the event. But if you put that effort
and
in
it's okay,
you want to win, it's fine. It's fine to be like that.
No, it's not.
But it's not fine for me to be like that, or my players. I want to win, and I know that comes with hard work.
Yeah, man. Damn, you crushed that. You hit that out of the park. It's all about what you're looking to get out of it, man. You said it perfectly. What do you want, And if you do the mental reps, like March, when you were talking, I was just thinking in my head, you have got to be obsessed. Like, it's got to be an obsession, especially when the layout drops. You should be looking at that layout all day, every day, going to get on the layout if you can, and be obsessed with it, because if you're not, there are players that are, and they're going to have an advantage over you, So you got to really do everything in your power to give yourself the best shot, at winning, at being the best teammate that you can be. By reading all those variables, not only are you better, you're a better teammate, because you understand the different variables that your teammates are going through as well. And you can kind of dance off that and make plays off that, but if we're not putting in the work, it's going to be hard to read all those intricate seams. So really, if you're out there, you're listening, clock in, get obsessed, look at the layout, get out there and do the work.
100%.
Yeah, man.
Clint, what do you think the highlight of your career has been? You're kind of in a second birth. You retired and came back to the game. Love that you're back, by the way. I know I've told you that many times. But what like looking back on your career, what has been the biggest moment for you?
I think the biggest moment would be winning that first pro event, and we won it in style. We beat Philly Americans 5-1 in the final. So I think I think you
Was that
both would
Toulouse?
remember your first. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was the Toulouse World Cup.
Damn.
So
Nice.
I think every pro player remembers their first major pro win. You know, we won 2 events that year, beating Phillies in both of them. But then I think there's lots of little things after that. A massive achievement was in 2012. Obviously, I was a Dye sponsored player at the time, and Dye Europe wanted me to go and help Vision, who were an SPL team that year. They'd been relegated down to the SPL, and it's like, we want that team back in the pro division because
Yeah.
obviously a Dye French team at the time being pro helped obviously the manufacturer out. So we ended up winning the series, and we took a couple of wins on the way. So that was another huge thing for me because it was working with different players and trying to achieve something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yes.
In my career, maybe it was like, right, you need to go and help this team to get promotion.
Yeah.
And guesting for a foreign team where French is not my first language and English is not theirs is really hard. But it was great. Obviously, I've had 2 Nation Cup wins for Team GB, and I was actually captain of both of them, which, dude, that's massive pride.
Legendary.
And we've had 3 or 4 second places as well, losing to Marcelo's American team one year, I think it was. But I guess after the first pro one, there's lots of little stories, isn't there, throughout your career?
Yeah.
What
Oh,
makes
yeah.
you, don't get me wrong, being asked to play on Art Chaos, huge team,
Yeah.
this big
Huge.
worldwide super team being put together, and they've asked me, this little young guy at the time from England, to go and play with them. And it's
You
like,
weren't that
really?
young back then, dude.
2014, so that was, well, I was
34.
about
Young man.
28,
You're
29.
almost.
He's a young man.
So that was a highlight of my career. Again, that didn't work out, and I think this year is going to be one of my best years. Coming back after having 6-7 years out, having torn hamstring last year, thinking this is me done, and then getting the opportunity to play on 15s and being the captain of the nations team, and we'd come so close to winning 2 pro events in 15's his first pro season year, and obviously winning Nations Cup. And I'd say this is probably one of my biggest years.
That is so awesome. Well, much love to you
dude.
and the 15s and the whole gang. You guys keep, dominating and having fun out there. And I do want to ask, I know, March, you have a question, but what was it like that first pro win? Can you walk me through like what that meant to you, how that felt, and that experience of getting that first big pro W?
Do you know what? It was emotional. I can remember just absolutely breaking down on the field. We'd won the last point with 5 alive. The time has gone. People are cheering. People are running on the field, and it's like, this is 15 years of hard work, of getting up early, the training, playing in the rain, the arguments, not having friends because they go out drinking on the weekend and you're going away traveling. And it was that excitement, the emotion. And I can remember just breaking down, crying.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like, oh, I've done it. It's like, I've achieved what I've set out to try and achieve for 15, 20 years. And then, to be honest, within about an hour, I was completely hammered and drunk. I was on the podium. Somebody chucked me a mic, and I was steaming at this point. So, but it was,
Damn, dude.
it was
you and
fantastic.
Ryan
the chills.
Greenspan have that in common.
Yeah.
It was good, man. It was good. You always remember your first pro win.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's surreal. And then the work has only just begun from that moment, right?
Yeah.
Now,
it gets harder, doesn't it? Because everyone wants to beat you and everyone wants to knock you off of that pedestal of, well, they've just won the last event. And I can remember we obviously we won Toulouse, and then I think we went to Germany somewhere, and we played horrendous. I don't think we even qualified for Sunday. And it was like,
Oh man,
are we just a one-hit wonder? We just had a lucky event. And then it was a kick up the arse for everyone on the team to go and train harder now. And we trained super hard leading up to the third event, and we won the third event. So
Outstanding.
When you win, it only becomes harder because everyone wants to knock you off of that number one spot, and it's a battle more with yourself, your mental game on staying on top, isn't it? Working harder and not getting arrogant or cocky, going, "Oh, I'm up here now." This is easy, because it's not. It only gets harder.
Yeah, and understanding that there's more optics on you than ever before. You might have been able to get away with a move because you didn't have as many eyeballs looking at you prior to, making a big run or doing well on Sunday, or, the better you do, the more optics you're going to get. And you have to play that variable now as well. And you have to understand there's way more people watching. We got to read that seam now as well and kind of use it against them. But it adds a whole nother component to playing paintball for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clint, what was it like playing with Brandon Short? That was your first experience, I think, playing with one of the American US pros, right?
Dude, he was unique. Brandon was like, I love Brandon, but he was such a headache at times, because he'd come over and he would, it was a bit of a holiday, and paintball was a sideline. Yeah. It was like, no, Brandon, for us, at that time, everything.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And at that time, Brandon is on a ripper. He's world domination.
That year, he was the best player for me in the world. He was fantastic on the Ironman as a number one snake guy, and he could play, and it was no effort to him. But for obviously us at the level back then, it was like, this guy's going to help us win. But everything's a joke, and everything's it's funny. I can remember, there's a lot of stories I'm not going to go to.
Wait, we got to have one. We got to have one good one. For the families out here.
I think one time there was an altercation with him and Mouse at one event.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe it was on the Saturday or something. I think there was a bit of a scuffle. And I think we was in Paris, and I think I think potentially the police were involved and whatnot. And it was like, dude, we've got finals to play. But none of us. Who was
Mouse playing with over there?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. It could have maybe SK Moscow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
possibly.
You're right.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I don't think they got on well with each other at that time, or something had happened like in America or something. I don't know. But I think there was an altercation.
That's also just TK. Those are just TK things, just running around rampaging.
But Brandon's obviously how he viewed the field was great. He gave us a different dimension on how to play paintball. And that year, Nexus actually went over to California and trained with the Ironmen. Was it that year? Marcelo? Was you on the Ironman? Did we train?
2008?
Yeah, was it 2008?
Yeah.
And it was torrential rain for like 3 days.
Yes. That was how I got invited to Europe. Maybe it was the end of 2007, because Hugo came along, right?
That was it. Yes, it maybe was 2007. Yeah, Hugo was there, and we had a few of the Nexus kids. And that was the first time I met Shane, the Ironman coach. And
legend.
Dude, the knowledge I got from him that weekend was, it was like, oh my God. This guy used to think completely outside of the box and tell you to do so, because he would help us when we was there with the Ironman. Like, Clint, do this. And you're like, really? And you do it, and you're doing it against one of the Ironman players, and you're getting away with it. I think Ollie was on the team, Marcelo and Johnny, and there was some big names. And he's like, I've just done this move against one of the best teams in the world. And, so that was fantastic. But yeah, going back to Brandon, he's wealth of knowledge at the time. And it definitely helped the team.
He's a stud,
to get a couple of wins. So it was good.
He's a stud. And Shane Pestana, Anybody that has not seen the movie Push, please do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube, Google Push. It's available, right, Marcelo? It's just on
Oh yeah,
YouTube
you
for
go on
free.
YouTube.
It's free.
Yep, YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go and watch that movie. Shane
So
Pistana's in it, and he's one of the
yes,
best coaches of all time. I mean, just amazing guy.
legendary.
Yeah.
Clint, my brother, I know that you had a little bit of some time restraints here. You got out of work early. I know you're squeezing us in, so thank you so much. But we do have some
You're welcome.
Discord questions we want to get to before we let you
go,
go.
man.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have an awesome chat for the PTG community, and they always do a great job of asking some awesome questions. And one of them is from Russell, and he's kind of asking this to all of us, but you're the best one to answer the question. He's curious about European paintball and its fans, right? It seems like anytime you're at a paintball tournament in Europe, the grandstands are packed. The fans are booming. They're loud. They're so interested in the game. They stay there all day long. And we don't have that in the US. What are your thoughts as to why that is?
It'd be difficult to answer that because I don't play in the US anymore. So there could be different variables. Like, do you pay for your grandstand in the NXL? Do you have to
Not
pay
anymore?
To watch?
Yeah.
No. Then maybe there's more alcohol going around in Europe.
That's what I think. Honestly, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I that's a tough
half
one.
Of it, half of it's you have to pay for half, and then there is a free side, and then you have the VIP that's in the middle. And obviously Sunday there's way more people watching, but yeah, during the weekend it might be because a lot of the players are playing still as well. But
I thought your ID card got you into that other side now, Ty. Does it not?
Oh, is that right? Okay, awesome.
I could be wrong. I thought it did. But because we talk about this a lot, because it's something that you have to, if you're in the US, you have to take notice and try to figure out why, right?
I think I may have an answer for this. Is
okay.
There's not really webcast in Europe, so the only way to really watch the paintball is in the bleachers and in the stands watching. Where maybe possibly in the NXL, it's like we'll go scout this team by watching it on the webcast rather than going watching it at the field.
Yeah, totally. I think it's that paired with the professionalism in the US has gotten so strict, right? The pro teams don't want to be at the field any longer than they have to. And the divisional teams that are, really putting their best foot forward, they don't want to be at the field in the sun any longer than they have to. So as soon as their games are done, they want to get in the air conditioning, get the ice on their legs, get hydrating and watch the webcast. You're right. I also feel like European paintball, it's like, in the US, if you're using paintball as a vacation, it's usually not to be at the paintball field. They want to go to like the outer city. If we're in Chicago, they want to go visit Chicago. I feel like in Europe, the actual event is the vacation. Like it feels that way. Like people are truly just genuinely excited to be at the paintball field. In the last event in France, you had a bunch of players they're camping. They have their RVs there. They stay there overnight. They are at the paintball field literally 24/7. And so I think it's a cultural difference, right? As soon as they're done with their games, they want to hang out with their buddies there, drink some beers and have a good time. And it's really cool. It's really, really special to play paintball in Europe. I'm so glad that it's back for a little bit, at least, Only allowing one of us with each team now. I don't like that.
Which that may change for next year.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That's what I've heard.
To
which
no
I think
players
will
for each
suck.
team.
That will suck.
So is that a real possibility that we're looking at?
Yes, absolutely.
From what I've heard is no American pro player on a team, which I think is bad for European paintball. But then I think it also restricts somebody like Axel. If he gets the opportunity next year to play for Impact, he's got to make that choice of does he play for Impact or does he play for Tauntauns where he lives?
I see.
And the bummer with that is it really hinders the European players, right? Because now they can't even come and step into the NXL Pro League if they are to do that, right? I don't think they will. I don't think they'll make it to where you could have no US pros. I think that's a big talking point. Someone like Axel is a great example of that, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%. I prefer when pro American teams come over and we've got to compete with them, vice versa, because it feels like like if you win the event, it's like you deserve to win that event because you've beaten Dynasty, Impact, Houston Heat, etc., etc. But
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know
it's
what
really
they're trying to
refreshing
achieve there.
to get your insights on that from across the pond, and we appreciate you
Yes.
so much for being here. It is early morning show for us, and I know that you're working hard over there. I have one from Dynasty Shadow 21. Shout out to the troublemaker in the Discord, Dynasty Shadow. He was wondering, in the spirit of Halloween, what's your favorite scary movie and why?
What's my favorite scary movie and why?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's Halloween time. It's about to get spooky.
Dude, I don't know.
No scary movies? No?
Scary movie.
What about like Scream?
Chainsaw. Yeah, they were good in their time. The first Scream film. But
Yeah.
no, Saw, the first Saw film.
Saw is
because
good.
That was
Iconic.
unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is iconic.
All right.
There you go.
Osborne for this. If money wasn't an issue and you could play on any US NXL team, which one would it be?
Dude, we had this conversation on the way home from Paris with all the team players. It's like, who would you play for? I think if I had the opportunity, it would be the Ironmen. You know, the Ironmen was my first team I followed back in 2007 and 8 with, Mr. Yu, Ollie Lang, Marcelo. And there was a couple of years I tried to get on Ironman in 2008, 2009. And it didn't quite work out. But I've always been a fan ever since. I always look at their results before anyone else's. So I would say Ironman.
Well, hey, nothing's out of the
Nice.
question, man. You know what I mean? It's never too late. And we know that in paintball. It's like paintball is such an amazing game because you can play for an extremely long time and be very effective because, like we said, it's very cerebral, right? So hopefully we'll see you running around, in a red jersey with a shield on your chest. If that's your dream, let's make that happen. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, my dreams with 15s now, getting them into playing possibly an XL Pro. That's
Damn.
where I want to be. But that question was who,
Yeah.
if
So-
nothing was an option.
Totally.
Well, then shit, let's get that Clover running around on the pro field. You know what I'm saying? Let's get that going. Like, let's attack the dream and lucky 15s. Let's make that happen. Keep doing the work. Keep having fun with the process. And there's no reason why you guys can't.
Yeah, that leads into another question from Osborne for this as well. What's the origin of the team name, Lucky 15s?
The amount of people ask me this question, and I'm not 100% sure. It's something to do with a bet. No, it was something to do with a bet on the horse racing. I think there's a syndicate or something you could put together, which is called Lucky 15. And Ainsley and a couple of others put a bet on and said, look, we'll do a Lucky 15 bet. And if it comes through, we'll set up a paintball team. And it won. Accumulator won. Yeah, the accumulator won, which was called
That's
Lucky
dope.
15s. So they started the paintball team and called it Lucky 15s.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
hell
crazy. All right, we got Kaylin from Inspired Paintball. Who was your top European pro influences?
Miko. Can you remember Miko, who used to play?
Yeah, of course.
Washington
Remember
Legion,
Miko?
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's still hugely involved in paintball.
Yeah.
But he was like almost the first guest player to play on Russian Legion when Russian Legion were just wiping out every single team in the world. And it was like, this guy from Finland is running around destroying everyone, destroying the Russian players. He was competing against the Americans and the elite Americans and beating those players up. And yeah, Miko, for me back then, 2004, that would have been, I was like, dude, I would love to be like this kid. So,
Sheesh.
Miko.
He was tearing through paintball. Yeah. And March,
awesome.
you played quite a bit of paintball with him on the Ironman there.
Sure did. Yeah, Miko's a stud, man. It was so good. I remember the 2008 World Cup, the amount of people he shot off the break, him and Paxson, it was just unbelievable to watch. It was such a high percentage. Like pretty much a guaranteed kill if he was shooting that way. It was nuts.
Yeah. And whenever you played against him, you was like hoping that he wasn't shooting your way. Because you was in for a tough game if he was.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right, we got Lil G from the Bean. Shout out to Lil G from the Bean. He's
Lil
back in
G.
the Discord. He's got
Lil
a great
G.
question here too. Clint, your playing career has been historic across the European scene and here in the States. What are the words of advice you give to the young European players about your experience and work ethic to reach the top?
You need to learn to take criticism. Take it as constructive criticism, and use it to push yourself further and harder. And it's like you guys were speaking earlier. If you want it, you've got to go and earn it. It's not going to come for free. So you've got to put the hours in, put the reps in, and listen to as many people as you can. Experienced players, even players from a lower down division can give you information which will help your game. You've just got to be open-minded. Listen to everything, watch everything, and work hard.
Absolutely.
Love that, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, epic.
All right, we got Dorfster 420. I would love to know what he feels about having more European teams frequent the NXL majors, Red Legion being one of the few international teams in the NXL. How can we get more European teams to cross the pond and represent their home countries?
I think it all comes down to funding. Sergey, who owns Russian Legion, or originally, I think he owned a bank. Art Chaos, the guy who owned Art Chaos had something to do with oil and whatnot. There's no real teams in Europe at the moment who have got that money, man, to help them jump the pond. And obviously the sponsorship, we all know it's difficult with paint, the cost of paint. I think it's just a cost issue.
Yeah.
And I think European paintball's been there for 20, 30 years. It's going to be limited because of cost for us to get to America. And there's no point coming over and playing in the NXL if you can't train with NXL teams prior. Russian Legion, they're there 2 weeks before. Art Chaos were always there 2-3 weeks before an NXL event to acclimatize and train with variable, different teams for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A European team can't come over and just play NXL Pro and compete. It would just be ridiculous. So it's going to come down to cost.
That's why I hate the rule of, there's also this. For any European team that chooses to do that right now, they have to forfeit playing in the NXL European Series as well. You can't do both. So that's a problem. And also an issue to me is not having the US pro teams in the NXL Europe League only hurts the NXL European players. Once they do go and play against the US pros, it's like, whoa, we haven't seen this skill level we haven't seen it, period. So how do we react to it? I think we're going to spread the gap, and that's not good. That's not what we want to do, because for years, the top European teams could absolutely hang with the top US teams. And, I had this argument with Matt. He's like, well, when's the last time they won? I'm like, okay, you're right. There hasn't been much winning. The Tauntauns did win in epic fashion. Breakout would consistently beat top level teams, so it was being done and we were in the right direction. And I believe the European players are more than capable, if they get to see, the US pro teams over and over and over, they're more than capable of being able to beat them. So now I believe it's going to make that gap, even more difficult, which is a little bit of a bummer.
It sucks in my eyes.
Yeah. I love to hear you say that, dude, because the pro teams voted on it, and so there's unfortunately more European pro players that don't want us there than do want us there, but that's why you're one of the best.
Is that because they're afraid of losing? That people are coming over, however you want to call it, don't get me wrong, higher guns. Oh, that's the only reason they won that event is because Marcelo was playing for them, etc., etc. No, I want you two to come and play in Europe because I want to beat you,
Yeah.
I'm quite, me and Marcelo before an event will be like, dude, I'm going to shoot you off the break. There's no way dude, I'm coming for your spot on, we have banter.
Of course.
And that's what I want. I want to compete against the very best. And
dude,
I do feel
that's why you're one of the, that's why you're one of the best.
Give him a round of applause. Let's give him a round of applause. There we go, Clint. Attaboy. Love that, man. Absolutely love that. And that speaks to your character, and that speaks to your playing ability and your wherewithal to approach the game and be the best version of yourself, the best Clint that you can be, man. And that's by having great training and competition. That's where it's all at.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I got one last question. This is the last one
go.
from me.
That's fine.
It's from Josh Pianaski, Zinger Paintball. He wonders, have there or will there be any changes with Brexit, and how does that affect your guys' ability to travel for tournaments and practice?
Well, Brexit's 2 years old now for us.
Yeah.
And, we travel to Breakout a lot, which is obviously in Belgium. It doesn't really affect much. There's maybe a little bit more paperwork, but I'm talking 10 minutes worth of extra paperwork. But it's more COVID related than Brexit related.
Sure. Okay.
It's just about passes for that. And things are maybe a little bit more expensive, but Brexit hasn't really, for me, caused too much issue when it comes to traveling in Europe.
Nice.
Very interesting. And for people who don't know what Brexit is, can you explain that?
It's Great Britain decided to come out of the European market, which meant then we actually did have a hard border between us and France, where when we was in the European Union, there was no border. Basically, you could travel to France on a driver's license. You didn't need any visas. It was almost like an American jumping state. There was not. You just had your ID with you, and you'll be fine. So,
I see. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's good news. I'm glad that everything is trucking along and the progression is all there. We got Bortega 0073. Has any big non-paintball brands companies shown any interest in sponsorship or coverage to help grow the sport in Europe, like team sponsors or event sponsors or anything like that?
Not anything that I know about. Nothing big. We've got Beyond, who sponsor 15s, who make like an energizing drink, like a pre-workout type drink. They're massively into gaming, so they sponsor us. So you could say that's an outside sponsor.
Yeah, gaming's huge,
but not that I know of. I'm sure there's going to be teams out there who've got sponsors from outside the sport, but nothing that really chucks alarm bells out. So
I think we'll see a big surge of production for paintball from gamers, because we even see it now, like influencers, gamers, they love playing paintball. It's like the real life version of what they love doing in the digital landscape. So when they can step onto like the real format and play, they just get the biggest razz out of it. And I think we'll see a lot of transition, hopefully over the years, of the gamers stepping on that field. Hopefully.
And if we can get outside sponsors, it's great, but it's a difficult sport to watch. It's not really attractive in my eyes for outside sponsors, but you never know. Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you're right. We got to keep
the
packaging
thing is
it
all
and
the
making sure.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ty.
Oh no, that was just packaging it and making sure we give a good product, with the visuals.
Yeah. Sponsors only care about numbers, really. That's the truth of it, right? If enough people
100%.
are watching, then they'll care to put their logo on a bunker. To me, it's about just doing a little better job of telling the story, because I think the game is interesting to watch. You do, Clint. I know you think the game's interesting to watch. Tyler does. So it's because we understand it. We understand the players. We're fans of certain athletes. I don't enjoy watching teams that I don't have any vested interest in paintball or in any sport, but I love to watch the teams that I have a vested interest in. So I think a better job of, telling the story, and eventually we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Clint, thank you so much, man. I know you got to run, but this was a dynamite episode. I knew it would be. Thank you for coming on. Even though you were afraid, you were super nervous to come on PTG. I know it's a big production here, but you came on and you absolutely crushed it.
I just feel really honored for being on your show, and keep up the good work, guys. You guys are doing fantastic for the sport, and mad respect to both of you. Thank you.
Much love, Clint.
Awesome,
you
brother.
keep crushing it out there. Good luck to you and the guys, and have fun and have a great day, my brother.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Yes.
All right.
Cheers.
Peace, bro.
All right, PTG Nation, thank you guys for rocking with us. We really hope you enjoyed the show. If you want, you can head over to ptgpaintball.com, click the Patreon link, and become a supporter at any level to get access to the Discord. You guys always hear us, talking about the Discord. Really easy to get into. And once you do get the Discord app, you realize how much you love it, how awesome it is. There are always great conversations in the Discord. And if you are part of the Discord, you get your chance to ask whatever questions you want to our upcoming guests. We ask them live on the show at the end of every episode, as you guys know. And yeah, it's just a great community. We really appreciate your guys' support. Our website is brought to you by Rusty Glaze at Constant Pursuit. If you guys need a website done, Rusty is your guy. All right, everybody. As always, we will see you very soon.